Ewing Duncan, come on out!
Thank you, guys.
And David, your bio. I mean, one time I was at an event with David, and he's talking to another guy, and the other guy's like, I published 6 books, and David's like, I published 10, and it was hilarious listening to them. So
It's really funny. I'm laughing.
What are the books about, right? Well, the books are actually really epic books, your recent ones. When I'm 164, a play off the Beatles song.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're lucky I didn't bring my guitar and sing my modified lyrics.
Oh, wow.
So when I'm 164, will you still need me? Will you still feed me? When I'm 164.
I'll beatbox with you. There we go. This is going to be a super talented show.
Aliens be running the show. All right.
So by the way, it's about longevity.
Yes, correct. And a lot of your work is about life sciences. So you're also CEO and curator of Arc Fusion. His events are so cool there. I loved it. That's where we've met a lot of our incredible people that are in this awesome community. You're a writer for so many different places. I can't even name them all without taking 17 minutes to do so. And Wired and New York Times, Atlantic for a few, and co-founding director of the Center for Life Sciences at UC Berkeley as well.
Yep.
So let's start with this. So when I first met David about a year ago, I remember this is probably one of the most profound memories for me for a first-time meeting. But David immediately, within the first few sentences, paragraphs of communicating, he dropped a quote on me, and it's stuck with me ever since. And it's that the second greatest invention of mankind is the data we leave behind. And the first greatest invention of mankind has yet to be invented, and that is how do we analyze this data and make it applicable to our lives.
Right, how do we make sense of it?
Yes, how do we make sense of it? And this is within the last 2 years, 90% of all the data that's ever been created was created in just the last 2 years. So it's exploding.
No, especially medical data.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just really getting started. I mean, we just stopped using paper records in medicine a few years back. And so it's really getting started. But yeah,
That does deserve an applause break. Doesn't that? God forbid.
Exactly. And I think they were carving it out of stone.
Yeah. Exactly.
So have you been on stage with comedians before? Have you been on stage with scientists before? You too? Well, of course, Dave.
I have. I have too. Are you ready?
Sam has with us, yes.
I'm not sure that I have, but I do want to say I'm not actually a scientist.
You
I'm a
basically,
writer. I like to
basically
play one, you know.
Yeah.
In newspapers and on TV.
Yeah.
So I'm breaking your.
You don't have to be honest with us. You can lie away.
Okay.
I'm going to Google that, right?
Okay, yeah. Well, there's that Nobel Prize.
What are you, David? What are you then?
I don't know. My mother's still trying to figure this out.
Same, very much so.
Besides a writer of song parodies.
Someday I'll be able to tell you.
This is getting deep.
When you're 164?
Yeah, we got a long time.
You're gender fluid, that's what you are.
I thought we were talking about age.
Age fluid. That's going to be the new thing.
We are in San
Age
Francisco.
fluidity.
All right, let's jump into.
Okay.
All right, so
So
how did you pick this?
I don't know, it's just kind of a cool image.
Cool image.
Cool images. It was actually, I'm always looking for great opening slides, and this one's pretty good. It has an off-on switch, you know, on the guy's forehead, which is actually pretty important. You know, if you're doing all this wild-ass technology, you want to be able to turn it off at some point, right?
So this is a guy infused with a camera.
Yeah, I think that's his eye.
That's his eye, yeah, okay.
Well, that's good if you make robots with really short arms, so you can always reach in and...
You're ready for anything, I think.
Whoa.
So, I wanted to just start out giving 2 or 3 potential visions for how this might work. And so, I think you all know where this comes from, right? This is how we may build a better human. Will this be one way we do it?
Balding aliens?
Or, actually, I had a really cool-looking woman who was, like, futuristic that somehow didn't get up here. That was the first choice. Okay.
I really hope we don't look like this.
Yeah, and then this is, you know, I don't
Enormous
know.
butt.
This is very
usually.
bad. This is not good.
You have a funny
Wait,
definition.
wait.
You have a funny definition
Some
of
days
better,
aren't that
David.
bad.
Yeah.
Lack of nipples because they're no longer needed,
I
huh?
mean, yeah, that's pretty
Maybe.
good. Male nipples are very disgusting.
Show black hands for grabbing food better. I don't know.
My dials on my torso.
So,
Let's have you read off the questions to our audience.
so you got, wow, you guys redid these slides, okay. Okay, what is the most significant factor? So I guess I'm waiting to find out what happens too. What is the most significant factor explaining how humans have been able to double lifespan in the last 150 years? And I'll show you a chart on how that's happened in a second.
So we got, okay.
So yes. Can you everybody see that? So genetics, and this is going to kind of frame the evening too. We're going to go through all these different topics. So genetics, evolution, good hygiene and diet. All those things your mother.
Boo.
Yeah. Drugs,
Drugs.
or stem cells, smart devices like bionics, artificial intelligence.
All right, we have an
All right.
answer from our audience.
Oh.
Now I'm torn between, it's either C or D.
Okay, well, you get to choose one.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
amazing thing.
Okay, I'll go with C.
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 C?
That's my
C?
diet.
Multiple choice doesn't mean you get a couple choices.
Alright.
C is correct. Eureka.
So is that the end of the game?
Down.
Are we done?
We're all done. We're going home now.
We didn't expect her to get it that quick.
That was quick. Wow.
That was good.
We have
Nailed
smart
that.
hands.
We got. This is going to be
I think
interesting.
somebody would go.
Well, why do you think it was hygiene and diet?
That's not as advanced as something like surgery.
That's a smart answer right there. That is correct. Yeah. And this is one of David's books, Experimental Man, that he wrote. And you'll notice on the cover, it looks like there's a naked dude on there. Who could that be? Is that you, sir? Look at that.
There's a lot of, whatever, digital fixing.
Yeah, there's a picture section in the center of it.
Kind of like those pictures you showed of me and Sam before.
Yeah. He showed us some of his private collection backstage, so you'll definitely enjoy it. I don't know. You're going to have to find out in the eyes. We get a round of applause.
Okay, so yes, good hygiene. It's sort of hard to believe, right? With all the technology, all the money we spent, all the time and effort and innovation, that it's still, basically, you eat right and you keep things clean. I mean, antibiotics were a big one, so that would fall under the drugs. But
Bunch of
it's-
radish in the face.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I thought this was
murdering
lettuce.
It's about lettuce, mostly lettuce.
You're
This
just
is
like
very
smashing that radish in a clean water,
I
so.
feel like a murder scene we're
I
watching
feel like
right
there's
now.
some symbolism, yeah.
You don't actually have to eat it, you just have to feed it. That's it.
Yeah, some psychopath farmer's market person. They
I know, it's kind of
exist.
scary. I've never seen radishes actually presented in a
Is
scary
you
way.
get down there.
Yeah.
You
So,
wash yourself.
as promised, here's a little chart that shows what the UN tells us is life expectancy starting in 1900. So it was around 47 years old back then. And this is, these are bit different scenarios for the developed world, the non-developed world, men and women. So women in the developed world, of course, live longer than anybody.
He found out you could live to 95 and he was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. By 2150, according to the UN, we're supposed to top out around 90, 95. So this is without, by the way, any like genetics or anything like that. This is what's supposed to happen naturally just by eating well, I guess. I don't know, staying clean, taking baths. So,
Maybe we should just touch on that point just a little bit longer. Okay, so that's about 1860 or so. All right, well, we can just chat about it quick. So 1860 or so is when we're talking about, 1870, let's say. Besides food and hygiene, I mean, those are absolutely crucial to development. Were there other answers on the list that you say were also very crucial to extending our lifespan?
well, clearly, as I was starting to say, the drugs, antibiotics have been a huge one. And, that's literally responsible for millions of people still who don't die from infection, things like that. But really, it's, some surgical procedures are a big deal. But when you look at the surveys, when you look at, the people that study these things, it really is eating right and especially good hygiene.
Just like lettuce and soap.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Lettuce and
Nailed.
soap.
And when you eat the lettuce, you wash with the soap though.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Good to know.
And is part of it not just the health of health level of the food we eat, but then also the accessibility and the ubiquity of food across countries in the world?
Yeah, actually, of course, there have been a lot of inventions. I mean, being able to refrigerate food was a huge deal. Being able to move it around. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we get fresh fruit from, well, we get it here in California because we grow it year round, but the rest of the world gets our fruit, you know, and our vegetables, and they didn't used to.
I like your fruit.
Hey,
That's what she said!
All right, enough of that. Okay? Later, backstage. Okay, question 2. Are you ready? Yeah. All right. This is where we get a little sciencey. Okay, this is kind of science here. How many billions of letters, A, C, G, and T, now those are nucleotides in DNA, make up a typical human genome?
1 billions.
So,
how about 4? We got A, we got C.
wait.
Did I get it right? I just rewrote the human genome. That's amazing.
That is actually wrong. I hit the wrong button.
Okay.
That's why you don't give the scientists.
We don't have an answer yet, right?
Someone is super.
So who knows the answer to that?
All right, hold on, we have an answer up here.
Okay.
All right, we're coming.
How many billions of letters?
I think it's 3 billion pairs, so let's say 6 billion letters.
It's pretty close. Does anybody have a more exact answer?
Okay.
Girl, you already won.
Yeah, you already.
6 billion, that's the best I can
Actually, she's just showing off her hygiene right now. I'm gonna live forever. Axe body spray.
Does this apply to Price of Rights rules, as in...
You can't go over it.
Oh, Price of Right?
Under...
Yeah. You'll get a refrigerator.
I give you a little hint there.
5,900,099.
Well, that's not really that close to 6 billion.
I know, right?
Close to 5 million.
So you should get
Wait.
it. Oh no, I have no idea.
You just said he should get it.
Mike can get nervous. Oh no, you should. I think you should get it. It was the first.
Okay, let's give it to him. Eureka! We don't want to prolong
How
this.
many billions was he off by?
It's 6.4 billion.
6.4 billion.
Decimals.
Although it does vary human to human, so
Does that
you could be missing a few. And you could be
are
smaller.
there fewer billions in the Y chromosome? Like, is the Y chromosome much
No,
smaller?
it's kind of all the same in
You can
humans.
study it with your own little stuffed animal DNA strand. That's your new snuggle toy.
Your own double helix.
It's like some weird fetish snake porn.
Whatever you want to use it for, sir. All right, give a round of applause. You want to watch that later, I think.
Oh, there we go.
Fetish snake porn.
4 billion.
There's the fetish snake porn right there, actually.
And it's 3.2 billion base pairs, because you guys know a little bit about this, know there's a double helix shape, right? And you get half from your mother and half from your father, and they line up as right next to each other as base pairs.
Yep.
So most people think it's actually 3.2 billion, which is pretty esoteric, I guess, to see if we could trick people.
Yeah, no, he got a nice sexual object from that question.
So
Oh,
I'm going to take a moment here.
Reggae Fest.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about my Rastafarian EEG days.
Why don't you explain what you're wearing there?
Yes, it's an EEG,
What is it?
and that is actually measuring the brain waves inside of my brain. And one of the most extraordinary things was that we found out I actually had a brain. And
Past tense.
I did this project, which that book is about, called Experimental Man. And I just want to give you a little quick survey here of what one can learn about oneself if they have a bunch of magazines that are making you do it, and you're writing about it, and you have a book contract, and you have to go out and take all these tests. So I went out and took a massive amount of tests trying to understand genetics, this lab, I have 60,000 DNA markers identified, environmental markers, all this scanning, proteomics. I didn't ask you what that was. I could have.
Well, let's have you do a quick definition.
So, yeah, that's all the proteins in your body. So your DNA actually makes proteins, which is kind of you, different parts of you. It causes all the reactions through enzymes, hormones, all those things are proteins.
You buy that at GNC?
Yeah.
To be honest, the way.
Something like that, yeah.
Just me.
Or RNC, well, it's sort of different set of
Okay.
proteins for RNC. There's a microbiome, which are all the microbes inside of you. And you actually have, you will not believe this if you don't know this, is a 10-to-1 ratio of bacteria inside of you to your human cells. So there's, although they don't weigh much and they're very small, it's about 4 pounds of you, but you are filled with bugs.
So 4
Most of
pounds
them
is
are
bacteria?
Yeah.
Is it worse now because of the tenderloin?
Yeah, you probably have a few
Yeah,
more.
those numbers jump up to 6.4
You're the
billion.
piano fight, yes, exactly. Yeah.
So,
Wow.
so they're about the same mass as the brain. We have bacteria.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And you have some in your brain too.
There's bacteria up there too.
And by the way, if you sleep with somebody, over time, you pick up their bacteria. I just want you to know. Okay. Anyway,
Okay.
we won't get too into
For better or worse.
Yes.
Do you-
And then I took all the wearables. I'm even wearing a couple here, like Fitbit. I was actually going to bring a couple crazy brain things, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, I tested all these things. It's kind of a consumer report. It's like, what is this all about? Does it work? The cost of all this was actually hundreds of thousands of dollars if I had actually paid for it, but since I was doing it for magazines, I didn't. It gets cheaper every year. It's gotten down now. If you did all this crazy testing, it'd be about $25,000.
Okay, I mean that's a massive point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because we used to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now it's coming down to thousands of dollars. There used to be just one person that had their whole genome mapped. Now we're at tens of thousands of people that have a genome mapped. What?
There's probably hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands. You think? Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. Okay, so now with technology enabling us to decrease the price of all of these services, especially the quantified self movement where you have all the EEGs on and the Fitbits on and you're measuring your heart rate and all that stuff, proteomics even, where you have all this data. How the hell are you making 15 terabytes worth of data? What did you learn about yourself?
What was the question that you brought up first thing here? So, we have the data, second greatest invention of humankind, the first invention. It's beginning to happen, but I got to tell you, 99.9% of all this data, 15 terabytes of data, and I'm doing Experimental Man 2 now, because it's been a few years since I wrote the book, and it's got a whole new wave of stuff. But it still is yet to be determined what all this means if you actually go out and do this. And one of the reasons I'm telling you about this, and I think it is important, is because one day, either us or our kids, we will get all these tests. It'll be done kind of seamlessly. We won't even know most of it's happening. It'll be wearables and various things in our shoes and our clothes and in our house. This is kind of the state of the technology right now. But we still are struggling to figure out what this means. We'll talk a bit more about that. But I do want to say that if everybody on the planet, 7 billion or whatever it is, 8 billion people had this amount of data, it would be yottabytes of data.
Yoda? That sounds like something like the
Not
Bronx.
Yoda.
Yoda bites.
Not Yoda, you didn't misspell it?
And I still have never, I talked to so many people trying to figure out what yottabytes, where that came from. Is there somebody named Yoda? I don't know.
Right. Well, okay.
Yeah, it's a mathematical term. So,
Okay.
I don't know, maybe it existed before time.
Making sense of the data.
Yeah.
All right. How the hell did you learn this about yourself?
So I'm going to give you guys just 2 or 3 examples of the literally millions of data points just for fun. So I have a 27% increased risk of a brain aneurysm, according to my DNA. That sounds a little scary, right? Like my brain could explode right now.
Yeah, special effect.
Except that's incredibly small effect size because it only adds 27% to the 1 in 200,000 chance I have to have a brain aneurysm.
Stop bragging.
Humble brag. And
But it does happen. It happens to people every day.
Uh-oh.
he's trying to scare you.
Who's it going to happen to up here? So that's some of the DNA. That's some of the more serious stuff. They also test for, frankly, kind of out there stuff, various behavior.
Who needs empathy, am I right? Pretty out.
When you have brain aneurysms, you don't need empathy.
Yeah.
So I have a high risk for low empathy.
Oh, that makes sense.
Really?
But I don't care what you think.
Replicant.
Doesn't give a sh-
It's my one lifeline.
That's your one lifeline. So you got it, you know.
Well, you got Yoda bites too. You got your last one.
So I also had those brain scans, and I was tested, this is serious stuff you're tested for, but I was also tested for greed and altruism.
Okay, your greed is normal. How do they determine your greed? Do they like give you
Good
like a
question.
pen, like drop $1 on the ground to see if you pick it up? Like, no, he's okay.
No, he's genetically greedy.
Are you genetically greedy?
This is just,
No, he's
this
not.
is actually, I have my head in an MRI scanner, right? I'm laying on my back, and I have these goggles on, and they're showing me all these, it's like these gambling games you're playing. And they somehow determine that you have normal greed. But like you guys said, what is greed good? I mean, back in the Wall Street days, I don't know. There's no real.
You're playing a gambling game while you're doing it?
Are you sure that wasn't supposed to be Greedo to go along with the Yoda bites?
Who knows? And then probably the most serious result I got was I actually, if you combine a whole bunch of stuff, genetics and a bunch of other measurements, I actually have 2 scenarios for heart attack in my future. One is 70% chance of heart attack in 20 years if I gain a small amount of weight each year. Only 4% if I have a steady weight. So this is kind of getting to where this stuff gets interesting.
Yeah.
And you start building algorithms, you add in lots of data together. But that's still pretty crazy, 70% or 4%.
Yeah, so don't have that
messing with your
extra
mind.
You better just warm up to the idea of 70%.
I just don't eat it.
Have you kept a steady weight since those tests? Has it scared you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Okay. Catch it while you can.
Yeah, more or less.
More or less.
All right, and my favorite genetic marker, how many people here can drink a cup of coffee right before they go to bed and not feel it?
Really?
Okay, now come on, put your hands up, don't be shy.
Really? All you?
You're one of us, you're one of me. Okay,
How many people here sleep at night?
it's about 25% of the population has this gene. And I have it, I can have a cup of coffee right before I go to bed, and I'm fine. And I feel sorry for
The rest
caffeine
of us.
lovers.
But does that also mean that it doesn't really help you that much in the morning?
There's a placebo effect in the morning.
Man, we feel sorry
You
for
do
you.
feel it eventually, but you have to drink a lot.
He injects it into his rectum. That's all he does. David, can you explain to us how you parse your DNA to figure out this and all the other results? Like, what were the algorithms? What did they look for with the HTCs and Gs? Where did they find it that your heart rate, that your heart attack percentage was only 4% if you kept steady weight, etc.? How did they figure this out?
Well, first of all, I don't do the work. I mean, it's you give up your blood, or you can. If anybody done like 23
Just
or
get
something?
coffee.
She's a fast
Whatever. They want to get cells from you, basically. You can get it from your saliva, you can get it from blood, and they crack open that cell, and each of us has a different, slightly different genome. So that's why some of us have blue eyes and brown eyes and various other traits, and some of us have a higher risk for disease than others. And there are various ways that they determine that. And one way they do it is to take a population that's had a heart attack and another population that hasn't, and they find out if there's some genes that seem responsible for that, and then that might make you higher risk. There are lots of other ways to do it as well.
So it's not necessarily a change in a letter in the sequence, but a cultural analysis of demographics?
Well, no, it is. It starts with a change in that particular,
Okay, so you're looking for the change of letter in the DNA, and then you match that, correlate it with.
In those different
It can literally be a
Yeah.
single letter. It could be, say I have an A, and I'm going to have a massive heart attack, and you have a G, and you're not.
Yeah.
So it's usually not quite that simple for something like heart disease. But for some diseases, like say Tay-Sachs, or these rare, horrible diseases that you have at birth, Down syndrome, those are fairly simple genetic glitches. But common diseases like heart disease, diabetes, that's very complicated set of, it's not only genes, it's also those proteins I talked about earlier and lots of other, and environmental factors too.
Are you a health freak in terms of how you eat and exercise? Are you like the super health freak?
Yeah, knowing all this stuff you know.
Like I said, I don't eat.
Okay, good. So are you a breatharian?
Is that working out for you?
No, it's funny. I did all this crazy testing really as a journalist and a storyteller because it was a great way to tell a story. I do think about this
You
stuff.
still
but I'm
smoke
not-
crack. It's amazing. This guy doesn't end it.
Drugs
that's
are
not
right
my
on
hero. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you live kind of normal lifestyle then I assume in terms of like the food you eat. Like today's celery day. Ooh, exciting. You eat other stuff. You're not like starving yourself or anything like
No,
that.
I eat most. I mean, I try to eat healthy. But
Right, right.
You're an omnivore, essentially.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I like meat. Yeah.
All right.
That's what I was asking.
And quickly, David, you asked this question. I mean, you asked it at your TED Talk, you asked it to your audiences when you speak with them, but you asked them how old they would like to live.
Right.
So I think maybe we should ask you guys quickly, how many of you, by a show of hands, would like to live until you are 80 years old?
All right.
No, 90. Okay. How many of you would like to live until you're 120 years old?
Now, who said no?
Wait, you can't vote twice.
Kick the can right
How
now.
many people voted twice?
But the other options. Okay, so it's 80, 120, and 150. Okay, let's start again.
And
80
forever.
and 150. Okay, so about thirds.
Strong question.
Okay, anybody
But
want to live?
that's
Anybody want to
assuming
live forever?
We don't look 150 years old.
Yeah. Okay.
Health span plus 1 day.
So, and your percentages were about, out of your 20,000 plus people that you've surveyed, you had about 60% of people respond with 80 years old, and then 30% of people responded with 120 years old, and only 10% of people actually responded with 150. And so did you ever figure out maybe what were the reasons why? Is it just a lack of vision and like, or is it lack of desire, or what is the thing that's holding people back from wanting to live longer?
Well, we actually did a survey when I was at Berkeley, and it was around 150. We said, would you want to live to be 150 or not, and then why or why not? And so we collected data. It's quite fascinating. I mean, you guys probably have your own reasons why you would want to live to be, say, 250. Those of you who voted for that, and those of you who would not.
See my enemies pass away.
Smite your enemies.
Yeah, smite my enemies down.
So it's all about winning with you.
Yeah, it's all, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what my genes tell me. I had it analyzed. I had it dancing
You know
on
what?
my enemies.
Victory, getting all the toys, was not actually on the survey.
That's okay.
But are people imagining that any time after 70, 80, that's the age that they're just going to look 150 years old? Because if you could have the youth of a 30-year-old right up until 250, I'll take it. Just for the number of books I'd like to be able to read.
Well, you notice I actually didn't tell you there was a technological fix that would allow you to live that long, although you can imagine that. So part of it is, can you imagine that? And you know, some people who didn't want to live that long, they did talk about being old and frail. They couldn't imagine, you know, they thought, okay, I'm going to hit like 80 and then I'm going to be like that for another 60 years. I don't think so.
No, thank you.
People were worried about, you know, money, making money. People who were more socially minded thought about overpopulation and resources. And suddenly everybody stopped dying. You know, imagine the resource issue, because it'd probably be mostly the wealthy or at least the affluent.
The roads will be traffic jams. Everyone's driving like 30 miles an hour. It's awful.
We also have those same, frankly, old guys running things that are good.
A new life awaits you in the off-world colonies.
Yeah, it is. That's cool.
So now you're on to experimental man ghosts.
Yes, so I just wanted to ask anyone, as I do in these talks, if you happen to have some crazy test or experiment or something.
Is this
Might
an
take that
experiment
action.
about threesomes? Is that what we're looking at here?
No, I didn't
No?
know that.
Hey. Oh no, where's the gun? 150, keep living.
Well, that screen in the back is actually reading our brain waves. That was...
Okay.
What are you wearing there?
That's
Are
interesting.
you wearing a small EEG
It's,
tool?
yeah, so there's a electrode, there are electrodes in that, and it's actually reading, we're listening to music,
The only
and
word
as the
is
music
the song
changes,
plays
our
saxophone.
brainwaves change.
Really?
So-
Wow.
Oh, that's cool. That's what's
Very
happening.
elaborate excuse for this picture, right?
Okay, moving on.
We have a question.
Okay, the third question, we're finally
What
to...
was the song? Was it just smooth jazz, easy listening?
Couldn't you tell from the graphic?
Just like Careless Whisper. But what were you listening to?
What were,
Yeah, what song were you listening to?
Miles Davis.
Okay.
Oh,
I was just making that up, but it sounds good. It was cool, it was kind of cool, they were a good band. All right, number 3, question. What is the closest organism to a T-Rex that is alive today and has been genetically sequenced? So this is about evolution.
nice. Let's go here.
So,
Donald Trump?
Close.
what do we think? Who wants to answer that?
Chicken.
Who said that?
Good answer.
Okay, yes. You were correct, Eureka!
Eureka!
Good answer.
Come on
Put it to
down.
dinosaurs.
guess that?
I didn't guess, I knew it because
Oh my.
Wait, why did you know it?
how did I know it?
Yeah.
Because there's experiments, or not experiments, but at least research into reverting a chicken to a dinosaur.
Yeah, because birds are
Because
dinosaurs.
birds are fucking dinosaurs.
This is
No,
true.
literally they are dinosaurs.
Do you like chickens?
No.
Do you like to eat them?
Yes.
Good.
Out of hatred?
I enjoy murdering.
Because we brought you some chicken.
Awesome.
This is from the bar. You can enjoy the chicken. It's there, folks. It's a dead dinosaur meat. Round of applause.
And she was totally right. The chicken being the closest, evolved relative back to the T-Rex from 66 million years ago. This is called a Chickenosaurus. And the reason it's up here on, it's basically how to build a better chicken, I guess, or maybe go backward. But it also applies to humans in the sense that we are the product of 3.5 billion years of evolution. And so one of the weird things about our genome is that we carry all these vestiges of lots of organisms that have come before us, but we don't use them anymore. So there are genes that are dormant and just sitting there. But if you activated certain genes in a chicken, you would actually get this creature.
Well, that's badass.
It would have teeth, it would have a tail, those little arms, the whole 9 yards, and little feathers on the head.
So why haven't we done that?
You start a theme park and it doesn't end well.
I never saw that.
We've had like 5 movies on the idea.
I think we should have another one. It's the school chickens.
Maybe there's one where everyone has a great time.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you don't make it T-Rex, for starters.
Maybe you just make herbivores. What the hell?
Yeah. Like brontosauruses, that'd be pretty
Then maybe
cool.
a few kids get stepped on by a brontosaurus.
So I actually heard about this from a gentleman named Jack Horner, little Jack Horner, I love that. But anyway, he's a paleontologist that's one of the most famous guys who have discovered T-Rexes all over the world. And he was the guy that Michael Crichton based the character in Jurassic Park on. And this is him on the set, working on Jurassic Park. And so we get to, in a way, the reason this is here and connecting it with humans. So this is me and a T-Rex kind of fixing off here. And believe it or not, they have discovered a T-Rex fossil, a femur, that's fossilized. But inside of it, they found actual tissue that had survived for 66 million years. And it was a tiny little sequence of a protein. This is not genes, but this is what genes turn into. This is a sequence for amino acids, which are what proteins are made out of. And this is for the T-Rex that was discovered 66 million years old. And this is the same gene that created the same protein, which is called a collagen protein. This is what makes your bones flexible and your skin go like this. It's only 1 letter difference in 66 million years.
Wow.
So very, very well preserved. And I even wrote a sort of silly article, are you a ferocious T-Rex or just a chicken?
And so what does that 1 letter difference make?
Well, look at the
Can't
picture.
tell.
Oh, that's it, huh? There's that 1 letter.
That's it.
Good to know. That's it. 61 years, that 1 letter.
My teeth are small.
Your teeth are small, I can tell.
Pretty
Yeah.
much the only difference.
Ferocious.
Okay. Are we done with that?
Yes, there's just one part. So you said that was part of the collagen. That's what creates collagen, our
Yes.
ability to be flexible in the skin and everything. So then the character difference was for dinosaurs, flex collagen versus...
Well, collagen, if you think about it, it's what makes us flexible, or like I said, our skin, anything that sort of bends and twists. And you couldn't really have organized or larger organisms without having some ability to be able to do that. So like when you put your foot down, it doesn't just shatter. And I might add here a serious note that actually there's another part of this story, which is my brother has something called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is a deletion pattern. It's mutations in the collagen gene, and it makes his bones more brittle, and he's broken a lot of bones. And in Experimental Man, I actually went out and had both of our collagen genes tested. And mine has some deletions, but it's still in the normal range. His is not. And that's why they call it de novo mutation, meaning it hasn't been in my family in the past. De novo means new in Latin. So that's how these things get passed down. And the same thing would have happened with the T-Rex. I mean, you know, but that's been around a very long time, that's type of gene.
Yeah. Got it.
So, okay, next question.
Cool.
So having environmental toxins, and remember we're kind of going down all the different ways that affect us as humans. They can maybe keep us from building a better human or make us a better human. So how many environmental toxins like heavy metals or pesticides, PCBs, appear in humans in trace amounts? So these are all the nasties inside you. Is it dozens, hundreds, or thousands?
And for extra credit, name them.
We're gonna go with thousands.
Eureka!
Come on down.
We have some smart people here.
We do. We have a smart audience.
You should be able to name at least 4 or something, though.
Now, how did you know that? Say, I know. I'm corrected on stage.
I eat a lot.
You guessed it?
I eat a lot of fish. You know, they got some mercury in them.
All right.
Time to time, and you know there are a lot of different things out there.
And you're just afraid of toxins?
Right? Yeah.
All right.
Total hypochondriac.
All right, we've got you some great toxic waste candy. Ooh, yummy.
Yeah! Make him eat it in front of us.
You don't need to eat it. I wouldn't do that.
So there are actually a lot more than thousands, they're tens of thousands. Yeah. By the way, not to scare you too much, these are parts per billion, parts per trillion, even smaller amounts. And
Just barely fatal.
barely. But they are, you know, and there are a lot of man-made ones, but there are 85,000 chemicals registered in the EPA. And so that gives you some hint. And, you know, the vast majority of those are actually human-made. So we've introduced a lot of these, and we just don't know who knows?
We've left our mark.
Yeah, right. Back to the mark, yeah.
Yeah. Are there like unsafe levels in terms of numbers?
Well, yeah, there are. But
Why don't you tell about you eating pre-fish and then measuring and then post?
Michigan!
There we go.
Yeah.
Heck,
Austin, Texas! Oh, I thought we were just yelling shit.
San Francisco!
Yeah, we're here.
Well, I hate to tell you guys this, but we are a mercury hotspot in the Bay Area.
Is that just because all the
And this is kind of a weird, no.
Is that hotspot? That sounds good.
Although it doesn't end up in the fish in the bay, which actually there are parts of the bay you can't fish in because of this. Does anybody know? I want to ask that. Anybody know?
Mining.
Yes, exactly. These come from the gold mines because they use mercury to separate the coal from the ore. And when you're driving up to go skiing in Tahoe and you go by all those hills that are covered with woods that look so beautiful, a lot of that's tailings. It's piles of dirt from digging into the mines, and it's all filled with mercury. I don't know why I laughed.
All part of your
It gets
diabolical
washed
plan.
down, you know, the Sacramento River and into the North Bay. So that's why we have a hot spot. And you know, to add genetics to that, which I tried to do in the book, I tried to link these things together as best I could. But some of us are more sensitive genetically to mercury as well. So you know, that all kind of brings all this together. But the mercury is an interesting metal in the sense that, like, you can eat a big meal of fish, which I did for the book. I ate a halibut. Let's see, what did I eat? I ate a halibut for lunch and a swordfish for dinner, which both have like. The higher up the food chain you go, the more mercury is in the fish.
Things you'll do for research.
Yeah.
Right.
He had lobster. The
I
other day.
Lobster's okay. It's got other stuff. But, yeah, those guys that like muck around in the
Bottom
mud.
feeders.
Yeah. So I got a before and after test before I had these 2 meals, and I had I think it was 3 parts per billion in my blood before I had those meals, which is below the safety threshold, the EPA of 5 parts per billion. And afterward, the next day I took another blood test. It was 13 parts per billion.
Wow.
So those 2
Right.
meals.
Progress.
Yeah, all right.
Almost there.
But the good news is that it does clear your body fairly fast, most of it. It's a tiny percentage that actually does kind of go to your brain and your liver.
And it probably helps, right?
Yeah, for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Help separate the gold and coal. Right.
So part of this environmental stuff, I actually was commissioned by National Geographic to do a story, and I did have my levels tested. In this case, it was about 400 toxins. And part of the story was that we did a chemical report card. So these are actually some of my results. You know, PCBs, which is an industrial chemical, PBDEs, which is flame retardants. And I hate to tell you this, if you fly a lot, you are being exposed to flame retardants because you want them there. If the plane, drops down and you have a chance to get out, you don't want to burst into flames. But you are being exposed. Again, though, these are such tiny levels, we don't know if they're harmful or not. If they are, it's over a long period of
Is everyone
time.
going to be freaked out after this show?
Well, if you're not, there's a toxicologist at NC State that did a test on, well, we got flame retardants just on our couches and stuff too.
Oh, yeah,
But you
but
don't want fire in your home
you
either.
could burn.
So she did a test where the exposure was to the mother rat, and the offspring reached maturity faster, were anxious, and obese.
Okay.
Good night. And the exposure
Just going
was
back
to
to
the
the guy
mother.
I showed in the first couple of slides.
Quick question, what does PCB stand for?
I don't actually know the chemical name, but these are, they're used in a variety. Actually, funny, they go very heavy and kind of like drop to the bottom of rivers to very light in the air. And they were used mostly as in coolants. Pretty much everything that you bought that was a coolant or refrigerator. And there was a giant GE plant up in the Hudson River Valley, up way north of New York City in the Adirondacks. It was the biggest Superfund site because they just dumped these PCBs in the river for decades. And they had to clean the whole thing. I think it was $3 billion. They had to literally dig everything up, keep it safe, because as you were digging it up, everybody had a chance of getting exposed. And then they sent them down to the border of Mexico.
All right, problem solved.
Buried them.
That's why we shouldn't have a wall, because we have to keep sending this shit to Mexico.
I was kind of
You
set
should
up
jump that. He'd actually buy that wrong.
He would.
That's a great idea.
Anyway, all right.
Question 5?
Question 5. Which of these drugs, because remember drugs, we had actually our person that got that first question right almost said drugs. Which of these drugs are taken by millions of healthy people to enhance themselves? So this is getting in the idea of maybe you take a pill to make yourself smarter or something like that.
Yeah.
So, who wants to guess here?
Adderall,
D.
metformin, Vitisquinol.
Adderall is something I take to improve my mental acuity. Metformin is something my mother takes to decrease her appetite. I don't know if it is nefarious, but maybe Julius Caesar said it sometime before he got stabbed in the face. I don't know, not the face.
Yeah, sounds like.
I don't know what that is.
2, okay.
So what'd you say?
T, all of the above.
D.
All right, that is correct.
Yay for drugs. Did you bring enough Adderall for everybody in the audience?
Yeah.
We all be pumped.
Yeah, you have to share.
Didn't.
Or only the guy that answered the question.
Who else here takes Adderall? Raise your hand.
Medical reasons.
You don't have
For
to
medical
answer.
reasons, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's taking.
Who here has taken Adderall at least once? There we go.
While in college, cramming for the test.
Well, to make it a little easier, that's the first, hold on there. Yeah, there we go, Adderall. Okay,
Let's see. Here, you've got another David Ewing Duncan book. This is the geneticist who played hoops with my DNA.
Woo!
all right.
Yeah, there you go, Gladys.
And these aren't just books from
Round of
David's,
applause.
these aren't just books from David's bookshelf, are they?
No, they're not. They're not from David's book.
You guys somehow found a first edition. It actually was renamed Masterminds, which is much better.
All right, yeah, we only go with the. You can get it signed later.
It's totally cool. Okay, so those of you who felt uncomfortable at raising your hands probably don't need to feel that uncomfortable. About 90% of college students in a bunch of surveys take Adderall by prescription. 37% take it on an occasional basis for tests. And about another 15% have taken it.
90% of college students are on Adderall by prescription?
No, 9%.
9, okay.
No, 9%. Because 9 plus 37 plus, yeah, 45. So that means a majority of college students at some point take it. Now the interesting thing about this, and I wrote several articles in the New York Times about bioenhancement, and made the case that when you look up, public health people will tell you, this is bad, and it probably is. We don't really know because it's never been tested. But they talk about addiction, things like that, and obviously this is a very powerful drug, and I would not advocate taking it, but
Unless you really need
to
it.
cover myself, just in case somebody's out there.
Is it unsafe to take it regularly?
The biggest effect is that it messes with your sleep if you take it too much.
That's that's it. You're like,
Well, that actually is. I mean,
Might feel
a few people occasionally get addicted. When you look up the addiction rates for this, it's actually small, very small. And I'm not saying that to justify using it. What this article partly was about was you have that many people, probably tens of millions of people that use it at least occasionally. We should be testing this for healthy people to see what's dangerous and what's not. Right now,
Wasn't it tested before it went on the market?
For people who have,
But we are testing it, just with healthy college.
That's what they're taking it for.
We're running a controlled experiment.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, and there are a lot of evidence to say it's actually unethical when you have that many people taking it on a casual basis to not know really what's wrong or what's right.
yeah, right now you're saying the biggest problem is that it works. That you'd be up all night.
Keeps you up.
Yeah.
That's what you took it for.
That's why you do it.
That's informal stuff. It's surveys, people that take it occasionally, and that's like maybe to help you get through a test or something like that. That's what they say is the main effect. So, but again, this has not been scientifically.
Wasn't this part of your experimenting on yourself?
I only do things that do no harm to me. So honestly,
Like the fish.
Yeah.
I violated that twice with a fish, and I also did a full body CT scan.
But what if Adderall enhanced you in a way that you liked?
I don't know. That kind of stuff scares me a little bit. I'm not sure I'm going to be that enhanced. There's some other, anyway, we'll get into another one of these.
Genetically engineered intelligence. So
Yeah, just skip the middleman. Okay, so metformin is a pharmaceutical that comes from a plant that is taken mostly by diabetics, type 2 diabetics, to keep your sugar under control. But a lot of physicians and others that work with metformin actually take it prophylactically because it does seem to actually slow aging slightly. And I'm even working on a paper. Yeah, it just slows it down. But if you're diabetic,
metformin stock price.
Probably would.
Yeah.
If you take it that way, you would get younger, I think. In general, just...
And what plant does it come from? We want to know suddenly.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask that.
Yeah.
I used to know that, but now I don't. It grows in India.
Cactus plant.
Cactus, yeah.
Is it worth it to you?
So this is used for type 2 diabetes?
Yeah, and it's a pretty good way to control diabetes. But diabetes is a disease that actually ages your cells faster. So it's causing your cells to kind of overproduce. It doesn't process sugar properly. So it makes sense that if you don't have diabetes, that this might
slow your. But is that only because you're thinking, oh my God, I don't want to die and have anyone find the pills in my ass? Is that why it's maybe slowing it down? Like, I gotta live longer. I got like 50 of these things in me right now. If I get it over, it's a pet dispenser.
That's actually one of the reasons why I don't do this.
But do you think if you're taking metformin and Adderall that they cancel each other out?
No, I think
Adderall
they work together.
Very focused pet dispenser. You like hitting that wastebasket each time.
Throw a little flame retardant in there. And
We got a party afterwards, guys. Just join us.
Okay.
Vitis vinifera.
So did anybody know what that was?
Oh.
It's Pinot Noir.
Resveratrol?
It's
Is that a
yes.
medication you get at Walgreens?
It's Latin, right? It's Latin. Vitis vinifera, and it's for common grapevine.
Yeah.
It's for stock photo, yes.
Yeah. So it is technically wine. Does it enhance us, everyone?
Yeah. Up to a certain point.
Oh, did it? Bulbar peak that.
Yeah.
Anything up past.
There's a steep drop off after that.
And then you just end up
That's one of those where moderation, probably, at a certain point it starts, law of diminishing returns. I think we've all been there, right? This does have a chemical in it. Somebody mentioned resveratrol, which for a while, if you remember, 6-7 years ago, there was this huge, big buzz about resveratrol. It's a chemical that's in a lot of fruit, actually, but it's a particular chemical that is activated when the fruit is stressed. So in grapes, which, when you grow them as wine, they're intentionally stressed, it starts producing, it's called polyphenol, it produces this, and it actually ramps up all of the defensive mechanisms in the grape.
How are you stressing the grape? What are you doing? Like saying you're not good enough. You're never going to make it on this vine. You're never going to be a Napa. You're always going to be. You're a Nevada grape. You're a Nevada grape.
You're nothing more than a raisin.
It's shaming the grape. Yeah.
Shaming the grape. Okay, these grapes. I get the science behind this.
Well, let me just finish that. real quick.
It's easy.
So this is a big deal. A guy named David Sinclair at Harvard, and I've read a bunch of stories, kind of broke the story in some ways. It was supposed to be in its more pure form, and if you ramped it up, the extract, it actually, people started taking it because it was supposedly with slow aging and would, it works in humans. And interestingly enough, we don't produce resveratrol as humans, but we eat plants that do. And when they're stressed, it actually activates machinery in our bodies.
Like eating caged animals versus free-ranging.
That's the other
Really?
thing.
So stress, like fruit, will activate our stress. So like I can't, that avocado looks too stressed for me, please bring me another one. That's something I can legitimately say to my waiter for the waiter to hate me even more.
Exactly.
Okay, good. So, this is a stress pomegranate.
So, unfortunately though, it turned out, even though they made a company that sold to GSK for like $600 million, they had a drug based on resveratrol, it failed. Because it turns out you need to drink like about 300 bottles of wine a day.
Some of us can do that. We walk up to
Were they having trouble finding volunteers?
I started losing it after about 100.
About 100?
And I kind of like it.
How did they test that? Did they give like a mouse like 300 bottles of wine? So like, fuck it. They just...
Little mouse bottles, yeah.
Yeah.
But who hasn't had a $600 million investment go bad?
I think it's happened to all of us.
It happens in the Bay Area.
All right, enough on that.
On we go.
So next question, number 6. What is an induced pluripotent stem cell? All right, some of the choices are a cell that induces birth, a plant cell, embryonic cells that form in the womb right after conception, or stem cells created by reverse engineering any cell in the body.
All right.
Well, let's get calm.
We have an answer.
All right, that would be D.
Right here. Oh.
That would be D.
Yes. Eureka!
Everyone's just nailing it in the audience.
Yeah.
Crushing it.
Were you using the audience as a lifeline on that one, or did you know?
Did anyone else have a different answer? I was kind of hoping to stump
D. How did you, again, know that? I want to embarrass myself.
Oh, I just went to a course on stem cell biology.
That's basically the right answer. So what, in terms of what you learned in terms of stem cells, what are some of its uses?
I mean, there are a lot of uses. Regeneration.
Regeneration, yeah, that's a good one.
They're talking about aging.
Oh, nice, excellent. Well, we are trying to regenerate ourselves with stem cells. You know what? Another way that's kind of like regeneration? Sea monkeys.
Yeah!
Amazing! They come back to life. Round of applause for this right here. Have you ever had any sea monkeys before?
Have you had sea monkeys before? No.
That was a rather tragic no. You haven't had one.
All right, well, this is actually one use. You can regenerate people.
Gene Wilder, you could regenerate?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, he's no longer with us, so it'd be nice to regenerate him.
So maybe real quick, or if you will explain it here, then you will. But the induced pluripotent stem cell, you want to maybe discuss?
Yeah, no, I'll explain it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Cool.
So this is actually my induced pluripotent stem cell line. This is me as stem cells. So
And can you take a cell? Yeah. Okay. You're gonna hit it. Okay.
Yeah, so stem cells are actually the very special cells that grow out just a few days after conception. And these are the cells that grow in every other cell in the body. And you probably have heard over the years, there's been all kinds of controversy about this, and we have a question about that. Because when they first discovered these, you actually had to have an actual human embryo to have these cells, and you can tweak them to grow into any cell in the body. And then there was this discovery, I think it was around 2004, rather abruptly, a couple of scientists figured out you could take any cell in the body like say a blood cell or a skin cell, and reverse it back to an embryonic-like cell, which then can grow into any cell in the body.
So at one point, eventually, the stem cell no longer is able to be a stem cell anymore, and then that's when it...
Right. That only occurs in the, it's during the gestation of a human in the womb, so it's only really for a short period of time until the cells differentiate. You have what they call adult stem cells all throughout your body, and that's generating new cells all the time, like in your eyes and your skin and all of that. But those are different. They just develop that particular type of cell, like a skin cell.
And then why don't we just go ahead and do this for ourselves indefinitely?
We're working
Increase our
on it.
lifespan. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's, yeah.
Hell yeah.
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 Woo!
And
Louder
so,
is this! Louder is this!
all right.
All right.
So this is the process I just described. You take blood, you reverse engineer it back, and you turn it into stem cells. And then the group that did this for me up in Wisconsin actually created these guys right here. And yes, they are beating. Those are
your
heart
shrimp.
cells.
Shrimp.
Those are heart toxic drugs like chemotherapy. You had to do that. So they do have. It's pretty expensive to put those together. But there's already talk about you could screen people using. You could make induced pluripotent stem cells, create heart cells, and then do what they call a tox screen for a drug. This video isn't working. It should be pulsing, but anyway.
Yeah, try clicking one more time.
No, I think it's you have a much more advanced PowerPoint, so I got to update that. But on the left are my normal neurons, which we make from stem cells. On the right, they've been dosed in SSRIs, which are like Prozac. So those are antidepressants. So we were just seeing what the reaction would be. So that's 2 cells you can make. They're actually, for a long time we thought there were 200 and some odd human cells. I've now been covering a project called the Cell Atlas Project. It looks like we have thousands of types of cells. So
What are the different types of cells? Stem cells or non-stem cells, or what else?
well, so when I say that, I'm talking about cells in the finished human product, like neurons or skin cells or liver
Neuron
cells, whatever. Yeah.
Skin cell, liver cell, those are all different types of cells.
Yeah.
And heart cell, brain cell,
Right.
neuron. Okay. 200 and now it's looking
Total
at thousands.
cells.
Yeah, thousands.
Yeah.
This is what happens as science marches on. It gets more complicated. So.
And we become.
Oh,
There you go.
Whoa!
There they are.
We do have the updated version.
They
It
were
almost
just-
looks like one of those spinners. You've seen those spinner things that are popular?
Yeah, there we go. Those are my brain cells.
Wow.
Were
Hanging
these
out.
all saved, your cardiac cells in these brain cells? Were they saved for future use?
They're frozen somewhere. Yeah.
Are they really?
Yeah. Actually,
Somewhere
my
as in your kitchen?
yeah, it's in my freezer.
Is it okay? Good to know.
That's why if the electricity goes out.
Don't use that ice cube tray.
Contains my heart.
Yeah, that ice in your drink. Oops.
Oops.
Yeah.
So my skin cells all over the place.
My ice cube is pulsating.
If I get lonely, can I use my stem cells to grow a conjoined twin?
Yes, you could eventually.
I think anyone who asks that question probably is lonely to begin
Yeah,
with.
don't you have the Tinder app? What's wrong?
All right, on we go.
And
Question.
by the way, there are theories you could have let me see if I get this right, totipotent cell, which means you could grow an entire organism from one cell, which is of course how we all are made. So, question 7. In a recent survey, how many people would want to cut off their arms and legs and replace them with advanced prosthetics that are better than the flesh and blood limbs we were born with? Okay.
All right, we have an answer.
Alright, we have A, 32, B, 8, C, 14, D.
Oh, we had a volunteer ready for the
No,
question.
to get this right, you have to actually do
Yeah.
it.
All right.
I'm pretty sure it's C.
Pretty sure.
Are you sure? Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer, yes.
I'm sorry, but that's wrong.
Call the landlady.
Is it D?
Oh,
Ooh.
50%.
Hey, we're narrowing it down here.
All right.
We have another answer.
It's gotta be one of the first two.
B.
B?
Yeah.
Did you say B?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Eureka! Come on down. Woo! Well, now, how many people here, raise your hands, would remove one of their limbs and have it replaced by a bionic limb voluntarily. 2, 3 people, that's it? 4, 5,
I think we got about 8%.
6, yeah.
Bonus limbs.
What's that?
Bonus limbs.
Oh, okay, you want to add an extra limb.
Yeah, yeah, why do you have to give one
All
up?
right.
Now you're talking.
Sir, we've got a limb for you. This is a leg limb.
It's better than yours.
It's much better. We hope you can attach it onto your body somehow. And I'm sure you'll look very technologically advanced.
Good for foot fetishes.
Good for foot fetishes too. Give a round of applause.
All right, so this is a survey, and it's I have a group called Art Fusion, and we hold these dinners and have these events, and we did this survey on our dinner on bioenhancing humans. And so you can see how we actually asked people to vote for all of these different possibilities, and the Make Me Bionic part got the fewest votes. We had about 20% that really just wanted to do whatever is available now, not much more. We had 28% wanted to take a super pill, make you smarter and stronger.
Adderall.
Yeah, 25% stem cells, and 19% wanted to download their brains into a robot or a computer.
Perfect. I'm totally down for the singularity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
How big of a sample size is that?
You were going to ask that, right? It's like a couple hundred people. It was kind of for fun.
That's still pretty good size, yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And okay, so but I don't know. It's interesting when I ask people, you get about the same response.
We got about 8%
Yeah.
here, yeah.
So we're willing to cut.
Depends on if you're down in Silicon Valley or not.
How about download your brain into a machine? Yeah, more?
Well, I mean, you're not going to lose. Like in that case, that sounds like a copy, right? It's a copy.
Yeah.
Or do you have to
It would
destroy
be
your
you.
brain to do it?
This is like Ray Kurzweil and some other people that want to basically take exactly who they are in their minds and download it into a machine.
Now who gets the download?
Well,
Everyone in your contact list.
If you have Amazon
you're
Prime,
already asking too many questions. I wonder about like what if somebody trips over the cord, or electricity goes out, or oops.
I did again.
The battery's not. Okay, so we are already on this whole bionics kind of area here. We're already seeing some of this happening, and this is Hugh Hare, the gentleman who was kneeling down, who lost his lower legs in a climbing accident. And he's at MIT Media Lab. He's one of the world experts in engineers making advanced prosthetics, mostly for veterans who lose limbs. But he will tell you he's an enhanced human compared to us.
Absolutely.
Because his legs will last longer, they're stronger.
Absolutely.
He can make himself taller or shorter.
That's so cool.
and he's apparently
Calls
looking
that
up for
social
skirts.
events.
Do you see this photo? Is that
But you
appropriate?
can't get through an X-ray machine.
And the woman to his left is, I think, Amy something, I forget her name, but she was an athlete and actually competed running on the blades, kind of like Oscar Pistorius, except she didn't murder anyone.
Wow.
Not enhanced enough?
This is a gentleman who actually has surgically implanted a reading light into his head.
Okay.
So if you count that as bionics,
And has he ever thought of like Amazon.com just buying a reading?
Yeah. Some of them just attach the books and
maybe
shit.
just turn on the light next to your.
Yeah. Fuse the book to his gut.
Yeah.
So wait, how does he turn on that light?
I don't know. Thought? Did you say? I don't know.
He has to picture like this.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd throw this up here just to show how ultimately this could go very wrong with the board. So this is the whole cyborg. But we hopefully won't go down this path. Except we already are, in the realm of those prosthetics, pacemakers. I didn't put a picture up here, but there actually are human beings who are paralyzed that have had brain implants that are put in that allow them to control machines using thought. And one of the more advanced ones is actually even wireless. So there's a picture that I usually put up of a woman who was paralyzed in a stroke, and she's got this little knob, an implant in her head, and it's connected to a computer, and she using thought. So her brain is thinking it's moving around an arm, but she can't do that with her real arm. So it's actually got a prosthetic arm, and she's been trained to be able to lift it up and drink a cup of coffee using thought.
Like Luke Skywalker.
Exactly.
You sleep well at night?
Did you sleep well at night?
The coffee.
Oh, the oh, hey.
I wonder about that. The Borgs have that gene? I don't know. All right.
On we go.
So, hearing, we've got a couple more left here. So this has been in the news a lot. What is CRISPR-Cas9? And what is it used for?
All right, we have an answer.
Whoops, sorry. We got too early. Jump the gun.
It's used to splice genes.
And what else?
Um,
I'm looking for one word here.
I guess you can take a length of gene and put it into the other gene.
Yeah, what is that? What do you do when you do that?
No, I don't know. Oh, edit? Gene
You're
edit?
using word processing and you are...
Editing.
Yes!
Editing.
Editing, yes!
Eureka! Come on down.
Probably helpful.
All right.
Knock over a glass.
All right, all right. This is getting too weak. All right, on 3, say Eureka with me. 1, 2, 3. Eureka!
All right.
All right, that's good. I like
Since you got that question right, we're going to give you a CRISPR machine. Just kidding. We're actually giving you CRISPRs. How about CRISPRs? Lots of good CRISPRs. Super good, everybody. Round of applause. CRISPRs that machines are rather expensive.
That's
The
awesome.
chips are.
So as the gentleman said, CRISPR it's the latest technology in something called gene therapy, which is basically how we as humans can manipulate genes, inserting them, deleting them. And until recently, this was really difficult to do and really was not done in humans because it was just too dangerous. But there's a new technology that a woman over in UC Berkeley named Jennifer Doudna and another woman, whose name I forget, but she's
The other
French.
woman, the co-inventors, Emmanuelle Charpentier.
Thank you. And these two women, almost by accident, discovered a process that's used in the bacteria uses to essentially fend off new viruses. So when a virus comes in and invades the bacteria, they survive. The bacteria takes an imprint of the genes of that virus and actually it cuts open a piece of its DNA and inserts that sequence, kind of saving it, and then closes it back up again. And so it knows if that virus attacks again, it has an imprint that can launch its immune system.
Buckshot.
Right. And the Cas9 part is a little enzyme that the bacteria uses to cut and paste that in. So enzymes are like scissors. So that's one use of enzymes. So that was discovered. It was published in 2012, and it's really been almost revolutionary. It's set the whole scientific world kind of on its ear in a lot of ways, trying to figure this out. We're already in just beginning to start human trials. I believe in China. There's some scheduled here and in the EU in the next few months. And if you know about the space at all, this is like a giant leap forward.
Yeah.
It's also a little scary because it's still not, it's very accurate usually, but we don't know, it's so new yet.
So we should test it on college students.
Yeah.
Give them some Adderall
That's what we
and
normally
just start splicing those genes.
Yeah.
I definitely always say that we should help the United States government out with decreasing so many regulations so that we can keep up with places like China that are deciding to hit genetic engineering up right away and start tweaking embryos and seeing what they get.
That's the scientific terminology too. Tweaking them and seeing what you get. What's that one look? Oh shit! Oh shit! Do it again.
I know certain politicians that we can test.
But then in one example, you'll get, oh my God, we eradicated the disease. Applaud! So you got to try in order to figure it out. So
yeah, I should actually add here why we do this, which is, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, I know. Why spoil things? But as I was talking about a little earlier, there are actual single letters in your genome, or not yours, because you guys probably don't have this because you're still alive, but they're the worst diseases like Tay-Sachs or Down syndrome, Fragile X. These are literally a letter or two. If you could edit them and change them, then you might prevent that disease.
Could you reverse it?
Not Down syndrome.
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure.
You replace the letter, what happens? It's too late because it's developed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Huntington's,
It's important to say that. So Down syndrome is an additional chromosome, trisomy, and so you can't genetically engineer that.
But it looks like an X, and that's one letter.
it's like a really big letter, yeah, you're right.
PhD talking right there.
I have a question.
Yes, fair enough, thank you.
Is genome, not genome?
I know, I thought of my government when you said
It's a
genome.
Genome.
Yeah, we do say genomics.
Genome or genome, I mean, what's the difference? Tomato, tomato.
Studying the genes of gnomes.
Do you know anyone here who says tomato?
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Like, am I the idiot that's saying genome all this time? And all the
What, you say
parties I go
genome?
to? I'm saying genome, oh my
I'm
god.
saying
Yeah.
The laughing stock of everyone. this whole
Genome,
time.
genome.
Only behind your back.
It's like a
Aw.
Flavor spelled with an O or with a U.
It's flavor either way. Like, that's not a big deal. But
I'm Midwestern and proud of it.
Flavor.
all right.
Alright, we pronounce it a different way.
We talk
Pronunciation.
Oh.
Who is this? Jew Wu
Okay.
Li.
Is that Jiwoo or Jiwon?
This is actually... Are you asking me to pronounce something again?
Come on. Loosen your pants.
You say aluminum, I say aluminium.
Exactly.
Okay, are we done? Are we done?
We're done with this.
We're never done with this.
So this is actually the winner of the Intel Award a couple of years ago.
Is this like 14-year-old?
She's a high school student.
Hey!
So this is to show you how easy
That's
this
incredible.
is to do.
Wow.
Yes.
That's incredible.
And it's easy and inexpensive, and given how really revolutionary it is, it's very interesting. How this will play out.
Was her work related to CRISPR?
Yeah, but she used CRISPR.
She
Wow.
used it?
Yeah. So she edited. Yes.
We
she
give
used it.
14-year-olds the ability to do
I don't know if
this?
she's 14. She's in high school.
Oh, 17?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so a teenager.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. And what did she do with it?
She used to be a black man.
A good one.
I will just leave it at that.
Next slide.
All right,
Come down here.
And we're encouraging him too, by the way.
Yeah.
wait a second. So what did she do with CRISPR?
I'm not exactly sure what the
We already have the
point
answer.
is that a high school student actually could use this technology.
Yeah, that's great.
I do know she, to bring it a little into perspective, she was at, you did this in the lab of a major geneticist named George Church, Harvard, you probably heard
Of
of.
course, yes.
So a little bit.
She used his lab?
She did the experiment in his lab, yeah. But she did the experiment.
Did he know?
Bootstraps.
So this is just a slide of a little baby with DNA all over the place, just showing you that we are really closer and on the cusp to potentially designer creatures, babies. I mean, most of the things that we think about, like intelligence and all height, things like that, they're very complicated. What happens in the body, and it's not like there's a single gene or even a chromosome, that could change that.
Well, for more simple things like eye color, that could be
Potentially.
a single gene.
Yeah. So we're not really there yet because we don't even know exactly how intelligence works.
Yeah, because I want my baby's eye color to be black.
But you could be looking for name your favorite movie star, selling off their genomes as a potential sequence for your children.
Oh, a Justin Bieber baby.
Chris Pratt. See,
Are you
All right.
auditioning? Like,
I need to. All right, here we go.
All right.
Bonus question.
So, bonus question. Does anybody know what the acronym CRISPR stands for?
All right. Now we're
Tough one.
really
You can even just get some of it. You get.
All right, let's try.
See how many words you can get. Boy, somebody gets this.
When something gets drier or gets crispy.
Okay, I think that's correct. You deserve some chips from this man over there.
All right, let's try again.
Okay, I'm gonna mess this up, but it's something like clustered, repeat, interspaced, droplets.
Sex.
public relations.
Keep going. Does anybody else know
She's got
the rest of this?
Yeah, no, I remembered earlier and then I forgot. Palindromic repeats.
I think we gotta give that to her.
All right.
Regularly interspersed short palindromic repeats.
Just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
Say that like 10 times.
Very
Is
nice.
this a fast price?
Yeah, we're going to give you this little squishy brain because you obviously have a very well endowed brain.
I didn't even get that. I got like half the letters.
Well, you get close enough.
I think you were close.
At this show, that's close enough.
Trust me, no one else I think was going to jump in on that.
All right. So that was the bonus question on the whole CRISPR gene.
Oh, we have a hand up already. You want to read the question?
Wow, okay.
Which
Number
US
9.
president?
Which U.S. president shut down most embryonic stem cell research in the U.S. for 7 years? Be careful out there, Alan. And by the way, this is to illustrate the fact that politics, I'm a former political reporter. It actually is important. I think we're kind of seeing that right now in the world. So does anybody know? Thank you, George. Official answers. Okay. Anybody know?
Thank you, George W. Bush.
Yes.
Yes, come on.
That was fast.
Everyone knows the answers quite well.
That's what happens when you draw your target audience.
Yeah, well, okay, demographics. All right. We have for you, sir, a good night, a children's book about good night. Maybe you want to read a little bit.
Is that about shaving the genitals?
It's not about that. Nothing yet. You can see. You should read this.
Good night, Abu Dhabi. Good night, nations great. Good night, church and state. Good night, rule of law. Good night, Mardi Gras. Good night, grand old party. Good night, war in a rush. Good night, Dick Cheney whispered in a hush.
Whispering hush.
Whispering hush.
All right.
Good night, Earth.
Ah, you never know. All
We're
right.
reading the entire book together.
Thank you.
All right, there he is. And this is actually talking about his support of IVF and in vitro fertilization, which is a little bizarre.
That's a little different from IBS, right?
Yeah.
Wait, in support of in vitro fertilization?
He's against themselves.
Yeah,
you figure it out.
Wait, in support of in vitro fertilization?
Acronym.
He was talking about, yes. But not.
He would be against in vitro, right?
No, actually, this was supporting it, which is bizarre.
Yeah, so
look at all
in
the
support of it, yeah, and then against stem cells.
Seems like a bit of a
That's
contradiction.
a lot of a contradiction.
Yeah. So he didn't like killing embryos, but anyway.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He loves babies.
Oh, this is hilarious.
So, this is why politics sometimes matters. And
it totally always matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we're kind of living in a period like that. So Galileo looking up, saying to the bishop, "Hey, dude, look, I can see the moon." And the bishop, banged him on the head with a telescope. So
religion needs to preserve itself.
yeah, and of course Galileo was forced to recant Copernican.
Maybe he had attitude or
universe.
something.
Yes.
Maybe he wasn't
So this leads me to the quick question about this, the one that I had. As you can see here, this guy the bishop is definitely making lots of money, and these types of discoveries could decrease his amount of money. So did this potentially have something also to do with money, or was it more about ignorance, or was it more about hesitation and wanting to test more before unleashing changes onto the world like that? Money.
You're trying to. I mean, look at that.
I think it's about babies. Look at all those babies.
So was it in this case more about money that was coming from lobbyists, or was it more ignorance? What was it more like they just wanted to do more longitudinal tests first? Do you know?
I don't know. I do know though that he was celebrating the births of these babies, from the IVF, and I don't know much beyond why exactly he was doing that. I just thought it was kind of bizarre, because when I looked this up, so maybe these are babies that actually survived, but he was obviously against the destruction of embryos, which has to do with IVF. So Okay. Can happen. Anyway.
All right, let's do it.
So,
on we
Next
go.
one, all right.
Question
Last question.
Oh.
Who recently said that the only way humans will keep up with machines and AI is for us to become one with machines?
Stephen Hawking.
All right.
Did you guys put up the possibility?
Okay, hold on, we have a guess.
Stephen Hawking.
The answer?
Stephen Hawking?
Actually, he was one person. I was looking for somebody else.
Somebody else.
Ray Kurzweil. Peter D.
Can we give her a prize?
Can we,
Well, let's find out.
Okay, hold on. Oh, we have more answers.
is there somebody here locally?
Elon Musk.
James.
Yes.
Oh,
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Eureka!
Eureka. Come on down.
Do we have two winners?
Do we have two? Someone else?
Yeah, well, we have
yeah,
Stephen
yeah.
Hawking.
Sure, okay.
Well, the other,
Stephen Hawking.
we'll get a.
Stephen Hawking?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
All right, you get a squishy brain for Stephen Hawking, but it was recently. Who recently said it? And it was.
Well, yeah. Well, Elon Musk has been saying that, and Stephen Hawking was more like,
Oh, look at this! And you've got your own Elon Musk book, Tesla, SpaceX, Quest for our fantastic future. Are you an Elon Musk fan?
He's all right.
He's okay. He's all right. Give a round of applause.
He's all right. He's just not much of an achiever.
Not a doer.
He's not a doer.
Not a doer.
So, weirdly enough, Mark Zuckerberg seems faded.
He's faded out.
I don't know what happened.
That's because they don't agree? Is that why? Are you taking sides? You're on the Musk side.
I'm not. I think one company's doing better than the other one. But anyway, there's been an interesting debate between these two guys just recently, which you may have followed, about AI. And Zuckerberg's basically telling Elon, shh.
Don't worry so much.
Yeah, don't worry so much about AI. And it is interesting, of course, both these guys are pushing AI to its limits, but Elon Musk has been all about the fact that a lot of people are going to have their jobs replaced. We may not be able to keep up with them intellectually. They may take over, which gets into like Stephen Hawking and some others have also been talking about that recently. So, in terms of AI and robots,
we should merge ourselves with them.
You think?
Yeah.
So you might get a call from Mark Zuckerberg.
Wait, no, we want to merge ourselves with them.
Do
we don't want to be separate from them because that's when we get taken over.
Yeah, but
You want to suck up to them.
Yeah, the merging yourself with them kind of means you've been taken over too. Just saying.
So by the way, here's where we are with robots, at least in healthcare right now. There are a lot of different things happening, but it's still pretty early stage in terms of them like taking over or something.
Depends
like
who writes the algorithms.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, I'm working on a book called Talking to Robots, which is going to be covering some of this. But
I wrote
in
a book called
healthcare,
Talking to Toasters. It's very interesting.
you could be
Yeah.
talking to a robot toaster.
300 pages long.
Who knows? Anyway, so you do have these, I don't know if you've been to conferences like I have, where you see these robots walking around and somebody, I don't know, many miles away is, right there on the screen and they start talking to you. It's kind of weird. It's like standing there, it's moving around.
So people pay for like a robot entrance fee, a remote robot entrance fee?
Maybe.
For the conference?
I don't know. Do you think they charge?
Or 360-degree
They charge them?
video, you could just have thousands of people entering the conference from 360 video wearing VR.
There have been these devices used as panelists, like somebody who can't make it.
Yeah, correct. Yes. That's why you could pay in the $10 fee to enter the conference in VR and 360 degree.
Yeah, in this case, it's actually a physician or a nurse that they're experimenting with using, somebody that's remote that might be talking.
Is that like their family member? Not like the actual doctor's remote, right?
No, the doctor is remote. Yeah, and he's talking
it would
through
be
the
like
screen.
a doctor at Stanford talking to like bumfuck nowhere, Iowa, right? Oh, okay.
I'm from Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Canada.
But would this doctor be like performing surgery?
Yeah.
Remotely?
You don't
No,
expect the
not that
doctor to touch your filthy, unhealthy body, do you?
The one over here is actually a surgical robot.
It's called
My
the Da
God.
Vinci SI. It's an intuitive surgical product.
And
Wow.
it looks kind of.
It looks like, it looks like you're drilling for something.
Where do you put the metformin?
Exactly.
In your
Or they have
brain.
the Adderall, I don't know.
And then it's a Spez dispenser afterwards.
Alright.
But you know, again, early stages of using this, but it tends to be quite accurate for very minute, you know, cuts and things where a human hand might not be steady enough. And I think we both know Captain Moore, who was one of the inventors of that. He was a physician and a surgeon, and this is called Da Vinci. And it's, you know, it's being tested, it's being used, and it's not really AI at this point because you've got a doctor that's sitting in this little booth. It looks like he's playing a video game, but he's actually guiding it.
Yeah.
So it's not quite there as a standalone automated robot. And then this is again at MIT Media Lab. This is the head of Einstein. I've actually talked to this head. It's very bizarre. First of all, it's a head.
Great for wax museums, wouldn't it be?
But when you talk to it, it's moving like this. It's going, hello. And, you know, it has all the expressions.
Yeah, androids are a real thing.
Yeah.
Beta 48's real. There's this one. There's so many. It's getting nuts. They'll speak to you, speak back to you, and interact with you.
Kind of.
They're not super duper smart yet, but you can ask it the same questions you can ask your Siri or your Google Assistant, and you'll ask them, oh, well, how far away is the star? And then
so what does this one do?
93, like get all sad at you because you told it to screw off or whatever.
No, it's actually got facial recognition software, and that's the main thing that it does. And as you're talking to it, if you look sad or smile, it'll smile back at you.
Yeah.
That's a little freaky.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I thought we would end this up with, oh, you guys took out the scary ones. There was a Terminator.
That wasn't in there.
These are all possible.
Wasn't in there.
Oh, maybe I'm imagining. Anyway, it was possible futures from movies.
Yeah.
Like Terminator, Ex Machina, which gets
So this is Scarlett Johansson down here, and this is the movie Her, right. You guys see Her, the film Her? Yeah.
So I wanted
that's a good pitch for
raise your hand if you believe in an AI to be your lover or your partner.
Possible.
I think it's almost the same people who would agree to chop off their limbs and have bionic limbs. There's some little correlation going on there.
Very futuristic.
I want a new limb.
So I put this in because we have it's fascinating, and a whole other topic really, but about how we imagine these new technologies, and it's often very dystopic. And we have gone through Terminator. I mean, even when I go to AI meetings or dinners and everybody there is in the field, the discussion, especially when you're eating dinner and drinking a little wine or something, it always shifts over to the whole Skynet scenario. Even with people that are doing this, which is a little, I don't know if that's scary or maybe it's good news that they're actually talking about.
Skeptical all the time. Yeah, absolutely, very important.
So I want to kind of leave you with.
Let me quickly talk about the article that you published for Techonomy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just published a short little article on the fact that almost everybody in AI. Is anybody here in AI? Okay, one, two.
No, just one. Okay.
So as I talk to people in AI, almost everybody seems sort of uncomfortable with the term unless you really want artificial intelligence, like I don't know, proto Skynet or something, that's actual intelligence, like us or better. And some people do want that. But most people who are doing AI today or in the near future are not talking about that. And everybody's a little uncomfortable with that term, partly because of all this freight that comes from the movies and all the dystopic visions. So I just wrote a little piece kind of pointing that out, saying that we got to come up with a new term. I really did not come up with a fabulous term. And
I think it's
well, what was the term?
Well, it was just deep computing.
Well, what about
it's not deep learning, it's not machine learning, but deep computing.
What about augmented intelligence? I like that one.
Well, that's one that's actually out there and it's been discussed. Both artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence came out in the 50s, early 60s, and it's been that recent. But augmented intelligence is more what we're doing.
Yeah.
Where these machines are mostly augmenting us, like the one certainly I showed here.
How about something like with Huggable, maybe Huggable Supercomputer Overlord or something, this little fuzzy, or right. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
And what do you want to leave?
Well, anyway, so after, there was this vision of the Terminator and all of that, which somehow didn't end up here. But that was, with scary scenarios. And then
Yeah.
I wanted to leave you with her, which I think is a fascinating
Absolutely.
idea of where a true AI, artificial intelligence, might end up. Instead of wanting to eat us or turn us into batteries or kill us all, they just become bored with us, basically, and they just go off and wherever the other AIs are, they leave us behind. And it's probably at least a more benign scenario.
Yes. And David?
Now we have a question for you.
Yes, we have
You've
a
got so many
bonus
questions.
Ooh.
This is the bonus question for you. If you could live to be 150 years old, would you become a cranky old man or a silver fox?
Can I become a cranky silver fox?
You definitely can.
All right.
All right. Here it is. David Duncan, everybody.
Ewing Duncan, here.
Cranky
Thank you,
silver
David.
fox.
You can find David online here. Thank you. One on 164.com. And here's his website, Twitter, email if you want to get in touch. And
Thank you all. Thank you, Brian, Sam, Troy. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.